Hello everybody! Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly, and welcome everybody once again for another amazing video of DIY investing. I have always believed that there was going to be one cycle that would stand itself way above all of the rest. We've talked about when there was going to be a point where retail adoption would take place, institutional on-ramps like never before, as well as opportunities like we've never seen. I've always believed that there would be this cycle that would be coming, but I've never thought that we were quite there yet. We've never seen true adoption, or at least have the infrastructure in place for retail money to flood in by the billions. For today's video, I'm going to be mapping out when I think that we could actually see the super cycle. Is it actually going to be in the next cycle, or are we still a few cycles away before we can actually see that massive mainstream adoption? If you're new and just found this channel, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel for more updates. Always remember to click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing videos like the one provided for you here. And make sure if you're a new guy just getting into these markets to go ahead and download my free ebook and Beginner's Guide to Crypto. This is going to teach you guys a lot of the basics for investing, a lot of the terminology that's going to help you guys be more profitable, make better decisions inside the market. Check it out. Links are in the description. And with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. What I want to talk to you guys about for today's video is talking about the big picture adoption curve for Bitcoin. Every single asset class takes a certain period of time before it gets mainstream adoption. We can look back at history over the last 100 years and see some of the major emerging technologies and advancements, and we can see how long it took for them to get mainstream adoption to where the majority of people inside the world are using them. We can look at the radio, we can look at the television, we can look at microwaves, we can look at things like that, and we can see how long it's taken before all of the people in the world are actually using it, or the majority of people. Now, when it comes to technology, technology gets adopted much quicker than anything that we've seen before. When we're looking in terms of the television, or the radio, or microwaves and things like that, those took a long period of time before the entire world was actually using them, or the majority of the world was using them. With technology, it's a little bit different. Never before has there been, I guess, an asset class that could see such mainstream adoption so quickly than, in my opinion, what we see with Bitcoin. With the internet itself, the majority of people in the world use the internet. Even in the poorest countries, people have connection to the internet. People have a connection to the internet, whereas people might not even have access to a microwave, right? They have internet connection though. Even if it's not in their house, they can go somewhere where they can get access to the internet, even in the poorest countries. And so with Bitcoin, it makes sense that we would need a payment system for the internet itself. And I believe that Bitcoin is going to see such quick mainstream adoption because it's in these poor countries where they can actually use Bitcoin the most. And so in these poor countries where it would theoretically be the hardest to get adoption, it's actually the opposite. And so with Bitcoin, you know, we have an opportunity to connect these third world countries to the internet and actually have a payment system for them. In these third world countries where they don't have quality central banks, they don't have anything like that, Bitcoin is going to solve a lot of these issues. And so I foresee a lot of value proposition coming into Bitcoin, especially with all of these concerns happening globally, supply chains issues, things like that. I think that that further drives the value towards Bitcoin. Now, when we're looking at Bitcoin, one of the things I personally like to view when talking about this mainstream adoption is the big cycle, right? For me, why I've always been investing in crypto is because I believe there's going to be one cycle that plays out that is much bigger and stands way above all of the rest. The cycle where we get true mainstream adoption. I don't think that we're there yet. And the last cycle was more of a trying period for Bitcoin. We never really had too many hurdles to go through when it came to prior Bitcoin cycles. The biggest hurdle we had was China banning Bitcoin back in like 2014, 2013 times. Now, when we fast forward into our most recent cycle, we had the pandemic. On top of that, we had quantitative easing that stopped. On top of that, we also had China banning Bitcoin. So we had all of these big three things that happened that were, you know, never before seen on any sort of scale, let alone inside of the scale of Bitcoin. So I believe that the reason Bitcoin didn't have quite as parabolic rally of its bull cycle was simply because of a lot of bearish fundamental catalysts that were really kind of going against the price of Bitcoin. The pandemic, in my opinion, wasn't bearish. The fact that they started injecting stimulus was inevitable that the prices were going to rise. China banning Bitcoin, Before it wasn't a big issue. This time it was a big issue because I feel like now more than ever before, Bitcoin needs the Chinese government. It needs the people of China to be buying Bitcoin. We're worth too much in market cap for the biggest adopter of Bitcoin being China to outright ban Bitcoin. We're not going to see Bitcoin skyrocket to 250,000 when the biggest adopter of Bitcoin banned it. And so I think that there was a lot of bearish kind of things that were correlating towards not making the Bitcoin cycle as profitable as it could have been. Now, I don't believe that that changes anything. Big picture, you can't continue to suppress Bitcoin. It's inevitable that this thing is going to do what it's going to do. And so when we're looking at the next cycle, I think it's important to revisit this thought of when are we going to see the super cycle? Could the next cycle actually be this super cycle? And what could the super cycle look like? Now, this is kind of what I wanted to get into, guys. Now, one of the big reasons I'm personally thinking about a super cycle has a lot to do with our Elliott wave count. Now, I see our Elliott wave count a couple different ways. Now, my first count, and this is the way that I've always been drawing it, was like this. This was our one wave, this was our wave 3, and I really had, let's see, this was our wave 3, this was our wave 4, and then I had our wave 5 as what our next cycle is going to be. I was drawing it something along the lines of this. We had finished wave 1, we finished wave 3, our bear market was the wave 4 correction, and after our wave 4 correction, we will start our final wave 5 of our next cycle. Now, this is how I was drawing it for a long time, but there's another scenario and a wave count that I want you guys to consider, because really either or can happen. It's not like it's guaranteed one way or another. The other wave count is this. This was wave 1, this was wave 3, this was wave 4, and wave 5 was our move to 69,000. Even though we barely made a new all-time high, this could technically still be a wave 5. And if this is the case, our bear market would have been the completion of our wave 1, right? So wherever this ends, whether we go a little bit lower, whether we bottom here, I'm not caring about that. If this is the case, and this is just a big wave 1, then literally where we're going to be coming at next is a big picture wave 3 market cycle. And so if this is actually our wave count, we could actually see our next bull cycle being our big picture wave 3. And if our wave 3 is our next cycle, then I honestly think that we could see $250,000 per Bitcoin. That was my target. When we were all the way over here, I was expecting that we were going to have a big blow off top, very similar to prior market cycles. Because, I mean, that's what we had seen up to that point. This was our blow off top in 2013. This was our blow off top in 2017. And this was our blow off top in 2021. So it was much smaller than anything we've been accustomed to seeing. And so when we're talking about this, if our next cycle is actually our wave 3, then this is the one that I would expect where we would actually hit the $250,000 target. After around then, I would expect another bear market, and we would basically just be repeating this to some extent, or this, some type of bear market, right? And so if what we're creating is a smaller fractal of an Elliott wave cycle, and this is only a wave 1, and our next cycle is a wave 3, this is where we would see a lot of money coming into the market, because it's inside of wave 3, based off Elliott wave theory, the most volume comes into the market, the highest ROI, all of those things. And so if we were going to see a true mainstream adoption cycle where all of these retail investors come flooding in, billions and billions of dollars get pumped into the market cap, and we see an expanse similar to what we saw in 2017, then it would make sense that this would be our wave count, and our next cycle would be a wave 3. Whatever cycle is going to be the big one, the one that I've been talking to you guys about where I would expect to see true mainstream adoption, retail investors flooding in like crazy, I would expect it to happen inside of a wave 3. Because wave 3 are the biggest cycles. If we look back to our last wave 3 that we had inside of a Bitcoin cycle, it was our 2013 move. This was our first cycle, so this would have been wave 1, 1, 2, and then this would have been wave 3. So our wave 3 went from $2.28 all the way up to $1,200, right? So our wave 3 was our most parabolic. If we're comparing all of our prior bull markets, this was our wave 3, and it was significantly more parabolic than any of the prior cycles by a huge majority. We can't compare our 2012 and 2013 cycle to any of our prior cycles because they weren't anywhere close to being this parabolic. And that is a wave 3. I'm telling you guys this now so that you guys can understand, hopefully, what I'm trying to explain. Wave 3s are very, very parabolic. And so we can see that right here. If we remove our drawing tools and we look at our subwaves of this entire last cycle, this was a wave 1, this was a wave 3. So those are the differences in size. So if this entire move is a wave 1 and our next bull cycle is supposed to be our wave 3, that's where I would be expecting us to hit the 250 to 300K target, would be in our next cycle. I believe after we hit that point, we would have another bear market, similar to the one that we're in right now, and then potentially we'd have one more final bull rally, you know, whatever it would go to. I'm not trying to predict that far ahead of advance. What I'm trying to explain to you guys is where we're at in the short term and why I believe that if this is just a one wave and our next move is wave 3, that's where we could genuinely see our mainstream adoption. One of the things I like to talk about is when we're looking at this total altcoin market cap, comparing it to our first cycle. Because in my opinion, this is telling us that we could very easily see that massive type of cycle heading into our next one. Because if we're comparing our last cycle to our first cycle that we ever saw, it looks almost identical. Their price action is almost the same. The difference is the length of time. This cycle is taking a much longer period of time to consolidate compared to our first one. But it makes sense. The more money that goes into a market, the longer it's going to take that money to basically create a cycle. And so what I find is so interesting is that even though it's taking longer, we're almost creating the exact same price action as our last one. The PA looks almost identical to the point where it's actually insane. Like, I don't understand what it is that really makes these look so identical every time. I guess it has to be the same people buying each cycle, but I don't know. It's just super interesting to me that each cycle can look so identical in so many ways. The total altcoin market cap looks almost the exact same as what we saw when we were at the end of 2016, awaiting that massive 2017 bull run. And so I share with you guys this example as a way to kind of think and help you guys stimulate your minds as a way to assume, what if our next cycle is actually the big retail one? What if this is actually us heading into a 2017 type of alt season? And if that's the case, it would line up similar with our wave count, that this entire move was just a one wave. Our entire last bull run was just wave 1, and the next bull run that we're getting ready for is going to be our big picture wave 3. Remember guys, wave 3s are the most parabolic. If we look at what happened in our last wave 3, it was by far our most parabolic market cycle in any of our Bitcoin cycles. And so when we're looking at examples like this, and we can see that, oh my gosh, our bear market looks identical to the first bear market the altcoins ever went in, right before that 2017 bull run. It is just things that are making me think, oh man, like, hey, we really could see a huge bull run. I can't guarantee that. None of us really have any idea at the end of the day. I can sit here and draw all these conclusions and show you guys examples, but we really won't know until it happens. But I would guess that if this is actually going to be heading into a 2017 type bull run like this, the fundamental news will line up with that. There will be some big things that'll come out. Maybe it's a Bitcoin ETF. Maybe it's something like that where, you know, we get enough recognition into the crypto markets where institutions can kind of just funnel all of their clientele into it. Retail can kind of just funnel in and buy everything at the same time. And then we really could see a big move like this. But, you know, I don't believe we saw anything close to that because there was a lot of negative news in our last bull market. Really, the second that they stopped quantitative easing was the second that the Bitcoin market topped. So there was some negative news and fundamental reasons for why the bull market wasn't as powerful. But in my opinion, that is a reason why we could see our next cycle being so big, is because what we're creating is almost the same as our first cycle. And if we're going to follow the same thing, then that is literally where we're at, awaiting this final bull run. And there's other conclusions we can draw. Like, one of the things that I like to look at is actually the XRP chart. Because when we're looking at XRP, it's amazing to me how it looks. Let's delete that real quick. It's amazing to me how it looks almost identical to its first cycle. So if we come over here, we look at this. This was XRP's first cycle, and this was the 2017 run that I had, right? Just a massive move. It completely dwarfed all of our prior highs of the last cycle. But this is what our prior last cycle looked like. Do you guys see the similarities that I'm trying to draw? Because honestly, the price structure looks the same. The difference is the length of time. This is a much lengthier time versus our first cycle. But nonetheless, it's pretty much the same. I mean, surely I'm not just making stuff up here. I'm sure you guys can see what I'm drawing. These are the exact same type of a cycle. We crash, lower high, sell back down, sell back down. I honestly think that if this is going to be the 2017 type bull run, it would make sense that all of the 2017 or prior altcoins would be creating the same patterns as their first cycle. So, I mean, there's a lot of different conclusions that we can draw that are showing that we could actually be getting ready for a huge 2017-like bull run. The price structure is, you know, one of the big giveaways for that. And not only that, but when we're looking at the Elliott wave count, the Elliott waves are also lining up that our next cycle could be our big picture wave 3. What I find is interesting that lines up with the potential that with our wave 3 coming, it also lines up with the fact that this cycle looks identical to our first cycle. And let me show you the wave count of our first cycle. This was wave 1, this was wave 3, 4, and 5. So this was wave 3. Want to know what our wave count is today? If we're following that, this is wave 1. We're getting ready for wave 3 right now. I don't know what it's going to look like, but theoretically, we're here awaiting that type of a move. And there's other charts that are showing this. When we look at the price of XRP, it looks really, really similar to its first cycle. And it doesn't have to do this type of a bull run, but I mean, even if it just shoots up to 10 bucks, I mean, that's a lot of profit that we can make by buying right now. And so there's a lot of different things that I'm watching right now that are telling me we really could be getting ready for something special. And I think the best thing that we could do is simply just be prepared for that. We don't know how big each cycle is going to be. We don't know what negative news is going to come out. We don't know what positive news is going to come out. We just don't know, and we can't predict these things. And so all we can do is look at prior cycles, see what we're at in today's value. You know, if there's similarities, draw the similarities. If there's differences, point the differences out. As long as we're getting in at the latter point of the bear market, you know, looking at least a year or close to a year from the top of the cycle, also coinciding with about an 80% correction. These are things that historically have marked bear market bottoms. We're on par with those things. We're not quite out of the clear. We could see one more lower low, but we know that based off of historical charts, we know that we're right there at the end of our bear market. The next bull market's starting. Whether we get a massive 2017 bull market or whether it's similar to the one we just went through, it doesn't matter. Getting in at the bottom of the bear market and just holding, buying a couple select altcoins, you're going to make a lot of profit either way. And so whether we get the 2017 bull run or not, you're going to make money. But if you're prepared beforehand and we get a 2017 bull run, the amount of money you're going to make is just immeasurably going to be greater. And so I think that we should prepare for that. I think that this is kind of what I'm watching. This is what I see. Wanted to give you guys an update as a way to kind of answer some of your questions. If you guys have comments, leave them in the description. I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts on this. If you guys have any differing opinions, I'd love to hear them. If you guys want to join the Discord server, download my free ebook. Links are in the description for that. You guys can also sign up for my VIP if you guys want to follow the trades that I take. All my expert picks, all of the new ecosystem plays that I'm going to be playing into the Pulse Chain Network, I'm going to get posted inside of the Discord. So if you guys want to see what I'm doing, where I'm investing my money, links are in the description to go on my website and sign up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.